Hey guys, it's Keith Brown, Tack Room Devotional, and it's Monday, so we're starting a new study. I want to talk to you this week about 5 enemy entry points. Now, I know there's more than 5, but we're just going to look at these 5. And I just want you to know that the enemy does all that he can to just throw you off your game. It's kind of like me cutting. You know, I love to ride a good cutting horse. For those of you who don't understand, cows are herd bound, so the horse gets between the cow that you're working and the herd and keeps that cow from getting back to the herd. Well, it can be a pretty wild ride at times, but if that horse ever gets to a point where he's a little too long or a little too short or just out of sync with that cow will just duck right underneath him. Well, it's the same kind of thing with the enemy. Boy, all we need to do is make one little bobble, and the enemy will just kick the door in and run right through you and cause havoc in your life, okay? In Genesis chapter 3, verse 1, it says, "Now the serpent was more crafty than any of the wild animals that the Lord God had made." So he's crafty. He's crafty. He's deceitful. He's a liar. He's very subtle at what he does. And so if he can just throw you off your game just a little bit, boy, he'll duck in there and mess with your life. When we look at the Sermon on the Mount, from Matthew chapter 5, verse 27 and 28, Jesus says, "You have heard that it was said, 'You shall not commit adultery.' But I say to you that everyone who looks at a woman with lust for her has already committed adultery with her in his heart." So, yes, we all know that adultery is a bad sin, right? But did you ever think about the fact that just you entertaining the thought of committing adultery or having lust for a woman can open up all kinds of problems in your life, like, for instance, pornography. These things can happen, and so we need to guard against that. Jesus goes on, or says in chapter 5 of Matthew, verse 21 and 22, he says, "You have heard that the ancients were told, 'You shall not commit murder, and whoever commits murder shall be liable to the court. But I say to you that everyone who is angry with his brother shall be guilty before the court.'" So once again, is murder horrible? Yes, it's terrible. But here it's even saying the attitude of your heart. If you have an attitude towards a brother with anger, and you harbor that anger, you are guilty of the same thing as the one who committed the murder. Wow. That's in the eyes of God, okay? In the world today, that wouldn't be true. You can have anger towards your brother, and it's all right. But in the eyes of God, when you start entertaining that, thinking about it in your head, that's an entry point the enemy will get in. In James chapter 4, verse 7, it says, "Submit yourselves to God, then resist the devil, and he will flee from you." So in other words, this gives us kind of a key. I need to submit myself to God. When I submit myself to God, it's just not me submitting me, but it's submitting my thoughts and my heart and my attitudes and everything about me to God. When I submit myself to God, I then resist the devil. Everything the devil tries to throw my way, I refuse it. And guess what? That will cause him to flee. So let's take I want to show you one other thing. Psalm chapter 66, verse 18 says, "If I regard iniquity in my heart," in other words, if I entertain iniquity or sin in my heart, the Lord will not hear. Boy, you don't want to do anything to mess up your communication with God. So do not entertain iniquity in your heart. So the first entry point I want to talk to you about, and we've kind of touched on it a little bit here, is harboring anger. Harboring anger. Now, again, it's been said, do not commit murder, but I tell you that if you have anger towards your brother. So how do we deal with the anger? Well, in Ephesians chapter 4, verse 26 and 27 says, "Be angry, and yet do not sin. Do not let the sun go down on your anger, and do not give the devil an opportunity." So there's nothing wrong with being angry. It's when you start entertaining the anger and allowing that to turn into hate, like we said before. Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verse 9 says, "Do not hasten in your spirit to be angry, for anger rests in the bosom of fools." So let's not be fools. When you recognize their anger in your life, yeah, you might be angry for a moment, but boy, turn loose of it. Don't entertain it, and don't let that build into hate towards a brother. I'm Keith Brown. This is Tack Room Devotional. Jesus loves you. I love you. I pray that God would richly bless you as you diligently seek him and serve him.